Imagine a leader so bold, he turned down free mosques because his people were starving. Meet Ibrahim Traoré, the man shaking up Africa, defying superpowers and rewriting history. This is a story you need to hear. Stick around till the end to see why the world's watching him. Welcome to Code of the Lion, where we uncover epic stories of courage. Hit that subscribe button, and let's dive in. The guy you're looking at right now, walking around in a soldier's uniform and leading his country. His country is Burkina Faso, a nation in Africa. They say this guy once got an offer. The offer was, hey, we'll set up a bunch of mosques for you, totally free. But Ibrahim flat out rejected it, saying, look, kids in our country are starving. Right now, we don't need places for religious practices. We'll handle that ourselves. What we really need are roads. We need schools, we need hospitals, and all that. Ibrahim is actually the leader of a really small country right now, and he came to power through a coup in Burkina Faso. But even so, the situation today is that there's no one more popular in all of Africa than Ibrahim. Big Western superpowers like France and the USA are keeping a close eye on what he's doing these days. His story will tell you a lot about Africa, which I'm pretty sure about. 90% of people probably don't even know this till today. So let me start. The thing is, when India got freedom from the British, sure, we faced a lot of atrocities. But one good thing that happened was that by the time the British left, they had set up a system that naturally led us into democracy. The British had created a structure called the Brown Sahibs. Why did they create them? Because they wanted to build a bridge between the Indian people and the British, making it easier for them to rule. But the British didn't realize that the elite class they were creating included our leaders like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and many others. What they were building was going to backfire, and soon these very people would start demanding independence. The British had no idea about this. Nothing like this happened in Africa. When the British left India, our system was already in place. We just carried forward our democracy from there. Even today's IPS, IS, and the entire administrative department somehow originated back in the British era. Things had already started falling into place. Although the British didn't really do us any favors, things were sorted out on their timeline. In a way, it worked out naturally in our favor. That didn't happen with Africa. France was the one calling the shots over there. They controlled about a third of the area, covering a lot of countries. Africa was divided into many nations. Then there were other countries like Belgium and other European nations. When France left and granted independence, they didn't really give true freedom. It was more like fake independence. They left. Fake independence meant leaving the country, but still controlling it. How did they control it? They picked some people who could be leaders of these small countries, made them leaders, dressed them up in suits and ties, looking all fancy. The poor people in Africa couldn't even afford suits and ties, but they made those leaders wear them. Once these leaders got money, they automatically became the kings there. Or you can say they made them dictators and set up the system. So when they made them leaders, then with them, there are a lot of agreements signed that have caused Africa to still remain very poor even today. The world is developing, but African countries are still among the poorest in the world. Burkina Faso, where Ibrahim is from, is also one of the poorest countries. So what did France do? France basically took control of all those countries from all sides. This is called neocolonialism. It means controlling a place without actually living there. How? By controlling the leaders there. At first, they made them agree to a military deal there. It means the French troops and soldiers will stay inside those countries. Their military bases will be set up there. The armies of these African countries will also be trained by France. Secondly, the currency used there, even today, if you travel to African countries or watch videos of villagers, you'll see that they use the CFA franc. The CFA franc is a currency controlled by France. And if they control the currency, it basically means that countries, foreign reserves or other reserves are also kept inside France in pretty large amounts. And here's a simple fact. The country that controls someone else's currency, whether it's a person or an organization, basically controls that country's economy today. It's a straightforward deal. If you don't have control over your currency, Like, if the Indian rupee wasn't under our control, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Whoever holds a currency has the power. That's one thing. Secondly, there's this. Thirdly, there were economic contracts involving natural resources in Africa. Things like gold and oil. There was uranium. There were lots of things like that. They signed economic contracts saying, hey, this contract should only go to our French companies, or only to those companies that would benefit them. By doing this, they signed some agreements and put their own ruler or leader in charge there. Because of this, all the countries in Africa never really developed. When you don't control your own currency or your own IMF, how are you going to build industries? How will you make monetary policies? That's how these countries never really developed. The only way they had to make money was by extracting their natural resources, mining them, and then French companies would make the profits. You'd get a little money here and there, just enough to get by day to day. That's the system that was set up. From 1960 till now, Burkina Faso has had 4 military coups. The government has been overthrown multiple times. And every time a new ruler comes in, people keep hoping for some real change. Even now, the situation for people is like this. When so many years pass, like it's been 70 to 80 years, there aren't many educated folks who really understand what's going on or what needs to be done. They don't even get what the problem is. A lot of countries are in the same boat. Take Burkina Faso, for example, a small country where since 1960, there have been only 4 or 5 military coups. The leader keeps getting kicked out over and over. And who does the kicking out? Mostly people from Burkina Faso itself. The army or military usually removes or sidelines anyone who challenges them, or sometimes nearby countries have some influence. But whoever becomes a leader is always someone who doesn't question France or the people who set up their colonies, or anyone else really. The reason is simple. The Western countries that come after are powerful, and they can easily influence or even assassinate anyone. Their intelligence agencies can arrange assassinations. So, they're always scared that there might be an assassination or something, and why get into unnecessary trouble with French companies? They've already got their power. They run things their way. Having fun. They wear suits and ties, but the common people don't dress like that. Then, for the first time, a leader came forward named Thomas Sankara. This guy was trained right in Burkina Faso's military, trained by the French themselves. But he had different ideas. Though he didn't show his hand openly, deep down he was thinking, the day I become a leader, I'll start taking action. And that's exactly what he did. He kept working hard until he became prime minister. He got everything in order. But after becoming prime minister, he started giving speeches about how the West controls us, how IMF loans come in, and how those loans are supposed to be for the country's development, but never really get used that way. Instead, the leaders use them for corruption, and the rich just keep getting richer. And the common people don't get anything out of it. On the contrary, they end up getting hurt. Why does this happen? Because when the IMF gives a loan, they do it with conditions like, hey, you take this much money from each patient for health services, set up this system, set up that system, electricity shouldn't be free, stuff like that. None of this should happen. Meanwhile, the people keep suffering more and more. This is basically a debt trap. It's called a debt trap. What's happening with Pakistan these days is exactly the same thing. It's the same debt trap. It's all happening through the IMF and other loans and stuff. If you want, I can make a separate video about that on Code of the Lion. Drop a comment below if you want to see it. But anyway, let's get back to this topic. So, Thomas Sankara came out and understood all this because he was abroad. He had been out there, and communism had quite an impact on him, which shook his mind. When he came back and became prime minister and got into power, he directly told the Western countries that we won't take loans from the IMF or the World Bank. We're not going to take any loans. We don't owe anything to anyone. Whatever concept France is pushing here is all wrong. France is treating us unfairly. Thomas Sankara used to say stuff like this all the time. So back then, the president at that time got Thomas Sankara arrested because he thought Sankara would stir up trouble, and on top of that, all the orders were coming from France. They were definitely going to cause problems for us. When this happened, Thomas Sankara was arrested. Now, Thomas Sankara had a deputy named Blaise Compaore. So what did this guy do? The military took over. They removed the president and got Thomas Sankara out of jail because at that time, Thomas Sankara had massive public support. It was the first time people had a real voice. The thing is, all this happened just a short while later, in 1983. Blaise Compaore, who was Thomas Sankara's deputy and had significant control over the military, is believed to have played a big role. These allegations are pretty strong and are considered to be true to some extent. He was the one who assassinated Thomas Sankara, along with 14 others who were with him. His supporters or protectors were also assassinated, gunned down. The assassination was so brutal that their body parts were chopped up into tiny pieces before being buried, because they knew the public's anger would spread like wildfire. After that, Thomas Sankara was never seen by the world again, and the movement in Burkina Faso, which had even spread beyond the country and across Africa, was completely crushed. After that, the same Blaise Compaore became the leader, the ruler, and they lived a good life until 2014. But by 2014, the movement picked up again, and people were really angry, like seriously pissed off, and Compaore had to run away, leaving Africa behind. The problem was, even though he left, they tried to establish democracy in Burkina Faso. Here's the weird thing. About 65% of Burkina Faso's population is Muslim, and around 20 to 25% are Christians. But the fights there have never been about religion. It's a pretty secular country, and the Muslims there, they're Christians and pretty secular too. But after 2014, jihadis started moving into Burkina Faso, probably because of democracy kicking in, or maybe the leader who was allied with Western countries left. So something was bound to happen. That's when the jihadi movement began there. Before that, there wasn't much going on, no terrorist attacks. But after that, the attacks started. Fast forward to 2022, meaning since 2014, these terrorist attacks have been ongoing. It didn't settle down. Ibrahim Traoré turned out to be a real leader who completely overturned everything. He took full control of the country. He was also in the military. And like Thomas Sankara, he's about 37 years old now. Sankara was around that age too. His words are like a rebirth of Sankara's spirit. He also says no loans will be taken from the IMF or World Bank. Totally rejects them. He didn't even give the jihadis any warning. He just cracked down on them straight away. He started killing them, dragging them around, and the Barkarana gang began a struggle. The public really connected with it because Ibrahim's concept is straightforward. He doesn't live a life of luxury like previous leaders. He's not driving fancy cars or anything. He lives simply, wears soldiers' uniforms, and always talks in a way that the common people relate to. Like, for example, someone probably offered him a deal, maybe Saudi Arabia or someone else. But that's just a rumor, nothing official. There's no announcement or anything, and Ibrahim straight up said, "Bro, we don't need the IMF. We don't need the IMF here. What we need are hospitals, schools. Our kids are starving to death." Ibrahim Traoré doesn't trust anyone, except for a small alliance he has with Russia's Putin. He doesn't really trust anyone else in the world. He only talks about Africa and the nationalist movement in Burkina Faso. He also says that France is CFA. Frank is a foreigner, and we're going to totally reject him because he's holding back our growth. He's the kind of person who follows Sunni Islam, but he neither supports the jihadis nor the Western countries. And that's exactly who the local people back. In fact, these days, from TikTok to every social media platform, Ibrahim Traoré's videos are the ones gaining all the popularity. As soon as he came, he kicked out the French troops, the military that was inside Burkina Faso. He demanded from them that they could leave our country. Ibrahim Traoré took many such actions. However, some people say he's just a dictator who will eventually change his mind and start enjoying life. Because when he took over the country by overthrowing the government, he said he was only here for a short time until proper elections were held and a proper government was formed. He said elections would happen in 2023, then in 2024. But even today, the control of the bad elements is still there. Ibrahim Traoré is right here. He says the country has a lot of people to fight against right now. Holding elections and forming a government isn't possible at this time. There are even rumors that, just like Thomas Sankara was assassinated, someone close to Ibrahim Traoré, maybe a friend or someone close to him, was offered $5 million or euros to do something. But he totally rejected it, saying that before he does anything to Ibrahim, he'd rather do something to himself. Because this fight isn't about money. This is a fight for revolution. What's going to happen next? What can or can't happen? You can tell me in the comments below, or only time will tell the future. Whether Ibrahim Traoré will change Africa's future, or just end up becoming another dictator. That's the incredible story of Ibrahim Traoré, a leader who's rewriting Africa's future. Or is he? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's discuss. If you love this deep dive into untold stories, smash that like button and subscribe to Code the Lion for more epic content every day. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.